there friends, it's Sandra here from Here in Ridge. Thanks for joining me again today in the greenhouse. So I just wanted to touch base with you today because a lot of you have already taken home your hanging baskets and planters and they look fantastic when they leave here. So we want to give you some tips on how to keep them looking great all summer long. There are a few steps that will definitely help with that, particularly if you have anything with either a petunia or a verbena in it. There's just a couple tips that can help keep it looking full and beautiful all summer long. So the first thing that lots of people are a little bit intimidated by, but really isn't that difficult, is giving them a haircut, particularly if they start to get a little lopsided. Now this guy's not too bad for lopsided, but he can definitely use a little haircut on some of these longer pieces. And that will do two things. One, it'll help to just kind of even up the shape of him. And second of all, it's going to promote some lovely new growth. Now I know we're going to be cutting off some flowers and that's always a little bit sad, but you just have to trust me that it's going to just help so much new growth come from the center. So you can trim just a little bit if you want. You can leave certainly some of the flowers, but anything that's getting too long and leggy, particularly, you want to give a good haircut to, okay? And like I said, don't be afraid to cut off some of the flowers because what it's going to do is it's going to promote new growth from the center and the end result is lots more flowers, okay? So I generally just spin it around and I just kind of take a little off here and a little off there because just like your bangs, if you cut them too short, you can't glue them back on. Learned that one the hard way too. So just keep giving it a little trim. And it might not look quite as pretty for a couple days. There's one more. Look at this guy over here is a little longer. I'm going to give him a little trim too. And I generally go, so I wouldn't trim it here and leave this long piece sticking out. I'm going to go to the closest knuckle above it and just trim it right below the knuckle, okay? And that I think looks pretty good. I also wanted to bring this one along because it's a little bit of a bigger basket. And again, a little bit more intimidating to a lot of people. But as you can see, as I turn it around, it's gotten kind of lopsided looking. So some of these really long ones on this side, I'm going to trim up. And petunias are kind of sticky, so it's not always a particularly fun job. But just give that a little haircut here. And again, like I said, I always go kind of to right below a joint there and just trim that part off. Let me see here. Now the calibrachoa, I probably wouldn't really give those much of a trim. And again, like somewhere like this. Okay, so this side was really long and it's easy to see. I'm actually going to cut a bit more off here because it's just getting a little bit too much. Okay. Now we want to keep it even, so let's just see. This side here, I don't want to cut too much, but I do want to promote some new growth, so I'm going to take less off on this side because I do want to keep some of that longer pieces, but I want it to fill in a bit more around it, okay? Same thing here, these callies. I'm not going to get too worried about it. They seem nice and full, but again, if you want to give them a little trim, go ahead and do so. Just know that it's going to promote new growth from the center and flush a bunch of new flowers out, so that's always a win in my books. Okay, and anything that is petunia-like. So that's going to include any of your waves, your vista petunias, calibrachoas. Pretty sure these little guys here are pechoas, which is again a kind of petunia. It's like a different variety. And again, see how this is a little bit lopsided? So I'm going to just trim these long guys here. And again, just going right below that joint there. They are plants, so if you trim a little more than you want, it will grow back. Just like your bangs. There you go. Okay, pretty straightforward. So, hair cutting, that's one step. The other thing that's going to be like super duper important to keep particularly your petunias looking great all summer is fertilizer. And in my books, it really needs to be water soluble. There are some sprinkling products that work as well, but nothing is going to replace your water soluble petunias. And if you have petunias that start to yellow in the leaves at all, that means they're anemic. And this is Jack's Petunia Feed, and it will solve that problem. So water and fertilizer regularly. There's two ways to go about fertilizing, and the Jack's actually gives you instructions about that. So you can do a once a week program where you use 1 tablespoon per gallon of water, or you can use a constant feed program, which means you give them fertilizer every single time you water them, but at a lower ratio. So then it says to use 1 teaspoon per gallon. That tends to be my favorite way to do it because I forget what day I fertilized on otherwise. So I just fertilize them every single time and I don't have an issue. So you can do it either way, and the same thing goes with the Miracle Grow products or other water-soluble products. You can do a higher rate once a week, or you can give them a little bit every single time. And that should definitely help you keep your hanging baskets looking better this summer. A few of the things that I should mention too about these petunias, anything that we grow in our greenhouse in a basket or a container does not need deadheading, so that shouldn't be an issue. Certainly if there's dead flowers, you can pick them off. It's not going to hurt anything, but you don't need to do that in order to get it to rebloom like you do with a standard petunia. Other things that will need deadheading are geraniums, of course, or ivy geraniums, but a lot of our hanging baskets are very versatile, pretty low maintenance, and once you give it a little trim and keep fertilizing, you should have a beautiful looking basket or planter all summer long. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, please just leave them in the comments below.